translated, highly exalted the one who took his servant on a night journey from Al-Haram Mosque to Al-Aqsa Mosque, which we blessed its surroundings so that we show you our signs. Indeed, he is the all-hearing, the all-seeing. So tonight, inshallah, we will listen to a first-hand experience from the blessed land, from Gaza, from the land surrounding the Holy Mosque, Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa. A first-hand experience that our brother, Dr. Ehab, had lived there. We will listen to a story that is not a bedtime story that we tell our children so that they can go to sleep, but rather it's a story for you and I so that we can wake up. Dr. Ehab is an executive with the Muslim Association of Canada. He is a Palestinian-Canadian physician, professional consultant, and distinguished educator and speaker who currently lives in London, Ontario, with his wife and 3 kids. Rooted in Asqalan, his family had migrated to Gaza during Nakba, where he grew up at a Shati refugee camp in Gaza. Like many Palestinians, he lived in many countries around the world, including Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Jordan, Egypt, UAE, and Canada. Along his journey, Dr. Ehab had acquired a wide span of professional education in medicine and leadership and management from prestigious universities, including Harvard University, as well as Sharia and Islamic studies from Al-Azhar University. As a physician and a pediatrician with specialization in newborn and premature babies care, he worked in many countries and acquired a fellowship from Western University in London. Dr. Ehab went to visit his elderly parents and family in Gaza last September. And then starting from October 7th, he was in Gaza, attending to his parents' basic needs and responding to the call of duty to volunteer in Gaza hospitals, especially Alshefa Hospital. During those 43 days that Dr. Ehab describes as if they were 43 years, as I said, he was attending to his parents' needs as well as volunteering in the hospitals. And after he was able to leave, the next day in Egypt, he learned that his father and other family members were amongst the shuhada. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept them amongst the shuhada and accept all the shuhada. Without further ado, Dr. Ehab, the mic is yours, inshallah.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعين به ونستغفره ونستهديه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدًا عبده ورسوله وصفيه من خلقه وخليله بلغ الرسالة وأدى الأمانة ونصح الأمة وكشف الغمة وجاهد في الله حق جهاد حتى أتاه اليقين من ربه صلوات ربي وسلامه عليك سيدي يا رسول الله وما ثقتي وتوفيقي واعتصامي إلا بالله عليه توكلت وإليه أنبت وإليه المصير ثم أما بعد. Jazakum Allahu khairan for hosting me tonight. My talk will be divided into 2 parts. The first one, I will tell you the story of what I have witnessed there over the 43 days with all possible details, so you could feel that you live inside and you are part of it, and you will have more insight about the story from inside Gaza, which is something might be more truthful, away from all the underestimation or the exaggerations that you could see or you spot in different stories or on the news or over media. And that would include my situation there at the social level and in the hospital. The second part of the lecture, which might be as important as my testimony about what happened there, is lessons learned and how we should really learn from what's going on in Gaza to improve our life and to improve the situation of this ummah. So I left Gaza in 2009. After 14 years of leaving Gaza, I went there in 2000, like I left in 2009 and now 2023. So 14 years, I went there visiting my parents, sitting with them. And once I arrived, I could say like I have 10 normal days from the 27th of September until the 7th of October. This is when I got to meet my parents and also my sister and my niece. They live in their house in the same neighborhood. It's the neighborhood of Rimal. We are more of east and they are more of west, my sister and my niece. And I have my extended family, which really I didn't have enough time to meet all of them. And I have my in-laws, I have my neighbors, my friends, lots of people, my colleagues at the hospital where I used to work before in Al-Nasser Hospital and Al-Rantisi Hospital and Alshefa Hospital. So lots of people who I really missed for a long time. And I have only 10 normal days to meet whoever I can meet until things changed suddenly. So at the 7th of October, definitely things changed in a dramatic way. It was a surprise for everyone. And as you all, as you know, Gaza under siege. It's already closed. So it took us only just a few days, maybe 3 to 4 days to start after the war started, just to notice or to feel that we have deficiencies in our basic needs. So in the first day, the October 7th, nothing happened in Gaza other than the news that happened on the other side. Gaza itself, had nothing happened. Maybe it took the occupation force a while to process what happened and to organize their reaction. On October 8th, the night of October 8th, we started to experience the heavy attacks against all neighborhoods in Gaza Strip, not only Gaza City. And they started in the city of Gaza in Al-Rimal. And this neighborhood is full of residential towers. And it's where the big stores are there and maybe most of the official governmental buildings and institutions are there. So they started with this neighborhood. So as other and all neighborhoods in Gaza City exactly, they were targeted, but there were focus on Al-Rimal at the beginning. And beside Al-Rimal too, where we have the university, the Islamic University, Al-Azhar University, and all other important institutions in Gaza Strip. So attacks started from there. They were heavy enough to destroy lots of those residential towers over the heads of people inside them. It was a very brutal and very strong start. So really people at the beginning, they got scared. It wasn't easy. I was there on the 2008, the war of the 2008, and I was in Baghdad when Baghdad got targeted in 1996 for 1 week. Nothing like what I have seen in Gaza this time. It's really totally different. The amount of explosions, the loud sounds of these explosions, and the amount of destructions, and the amount of people who will be killed under these attacks or airstrikes is something I have never seen before. It's really difficult, and the situation seems for all of us will be tough and difficult. It took Gaza just 3 days. We started to run out of water, of food, and electricity. Like it's there still at the beginning of the war, but it's tough. You started to face difficulties to get these items while they are basic needs. So by day 3, day 4, we started to talk, myself and my parents, that maybe we need to leave our apartment. Our apartment, it was one of those residential towers, and we are there at the 4th floor. And because we are at a little bit at a hill-like area that oversees other areas of Gaza, so the sounds of these explosions were really heavy. It wasn't like as easy as it will be somewhere else in Gaza. Really very heavy, and we are at a Rimal hospital. And every time we hear one of those attacks or explosions, like our house, our flat, our apartment, like shakes. So we were discussing to move to the house of my sister. While we are discussing this, we found our sister in day 4. She came to our house with my niece, because they just targeted and they attacked the tower right beside their tower. So they were scared, they are alone, and they want to feel safe. They came to us. So we are there until day 7, in the house of my parents until day 7. At that time, I used to go to Al-Nasr Hospital. This is my place where I used to work before, and Al-Rantisi Hospital too. In the first and the second day of the war, they sent me they sent me ambulance or a car from the hospital to get me to the hospital, because you can't move. It's not easy. You can't find transportations, and it's not easy to walk. And that was in the first and the second day of the war, until the 3rd day they texted me that we can't send you car anymore. It's tough, it's risky. They are targeting most of these ambulances. So I left without any option other than to go walking. And to go walking is really risky. Like, other than these drones on the sky of Gaza, and they detect every moving object as a target and you might be killed, walking on these streets under these heavy attacks over these residential towers or stores or institutions or buildings is not safe too, because most of these like big towers will fall over your head and you will be killed and you might die. So it wasn't safe. So I really couldn't reach there to the hospital easily, because it took 30 minutes walking back and forth. I was there in our house until day 7, and on day 7, I still remember when we walked down the street, myself and my father, and when we went there, we found out the neighborhood is empty. Like, no one is totally empty. Most people, they decided to leave, and they left already, because most of the attacks were in that neighborhood, in that area. So we decided to leave. So we took with us whatever we can, and we left quickly, like it was a very quick decision. And we moved to the house of my sister, which is beside Alshefa hospital, and that makes it easier for me to go and volunteer my time there. So at the house of my sister, and even before, my duties were divided into 2 types. The first duty is to take care of the family setup, taking care of my parents, my sister, my niece, myself, providing basic needs as much as I can. And the other one is to go to the hospital, and sometimes to connect with my friends, to check on my in-laws and my extended family of hospital, just to check on them, to make sure that everyone is safe. So as for my duties in my house, one of the duties is to go and bring water. And if you know Gaza, we have a few areas where we have springs of clean water. And clean water is something relative in Gaza. Some of those springs are really clean, but really it's tough to get water from in there, and most of them were targeted by the occupation force, by airstrikes. So that leaves you with some other springs of clean water, but it is not really clean. Like they are salty sometimes, and even the color is yellow sometimes, and the taste is not good, but you need to drink it. Like this is all what you get, and this is your mean to survive. So we have to go there to the spring of a clean water, and we are maybe hundreds, sometimes thousands and thousands of people on the same spot. And we are all there for the same mission. Our mission is to go and to get something to drink, just to survive. This is our mission. This is my mission. This is everyone's mission. And they want to go, and we are under pressure, all of us, because we know that they are targeting all springs of clean water. So you might be targeted, and if they see crowd, that makes them like more into targeting them. Like they want to kill the maximum number of people. That's at least from what we saw, from our perspective. Like if you are a crowd around the spring water, that this is so risky, and yet you need to do it. It's risky, you need to do it because this is your way to survive. And you can't like go and buy water. This is nothing like this. This is your only source to get water to drink. So I go there, it's a big fight. As if it's a fight. Like it's a struggle. Like you go and everyone is in hurry because they know they will be targeted. Those drones on the sky of Gaza, they never leave the sky of Gaza, and they detect us as a crowd around the spring water, our area of clean water. You know you might be targeted and you might be killed. And lots of people were targeted and were killed. You know it as a fact. Like it's not like something might happen, but mostly no. No, mostly yes. So you go with your bottle. Sometimes if you have something bigger or something smaller, you get what you get. And you go there for 1, 2, sometimes 3 hours. You fight to get something to drink for yourself and your family. And all those people, they are in hurry because they have kids, they are thirsty. They have family too, and they are thirsty. And you go there, and with a lot of pushing, and you will be pushed from the right side and left side, as if you are beside Al-Hajar al-Aswad, the black stone in Al-Kaaba. It's really a huge number of people. And all of them, they want to go there. And once you arrive, after lots of pushing right and left, you hold your hands at the source of the clean water just to make sure that you fill the bottle. So, and then you withdraw and you go back. And once you have it, it's bigger than this, definitely. Once you have it, sometimes you have it full, sometimes half of it, and sometimes nothing. Sometimes you are successful and sometimes you fail. And once you are successful, you go back home and you show your family, your parents that you have something, you divide the amount between all of us. And if you fail, then you fail. There is nothing to add for today, and tomorrow is a new day. Tomorrow we will have something to drink. And most of the time, you are successful to have it in half or the quarter of it, as much as you can. So this is the struggle, this is the fight, and every day passes is more difficult than the previous one. The amount of people who are like us, they left their houses and they came beside Alshefa hospital is a huge number of people. Like more than 60,000 of people from Gaza, they came from everywhere as refugees inside Alshefa hospital, and they used to go to this spring of water. And the struggle of bringing food is another story too. It's pretty similar. You have to stand in very long lines to get bread or something to eat. Sometimes you are successful and sometimes you fail. And once you fail, you go back without anything. To find like handful of rice or lentil or flour, it's gold. Wallahi, by itself, it's gold. The amount of happiness internally that you will have once you find something like this tells you like as if you found a handful of gold, not handful of rice or lentil or a flower. This water is very ni'mah, wallahi. Wallahi, ikhwani wa akhawati, this is very ni'mah. You have it easily. Now on this table, I have 2 bottles. I got them easily. I never thought even about them when I came to this hall that I might be thirsty and they won't find me water to drink. No, I didn't have this thought. I know for sure. I take it for granted that I will find something to drink. But wallahi, lots of people there, they have nothing to drink. No, they have dirty water to drink. It's a ni'mah. I never thought about myself running behind just a cup of water. And all my priorities were changed. I don't think anymore about my outlooking or how dirty or clean I am. Like all what I think about that you need to get something to drink yourself and your family. You need to get something to eat yourself and your family. You need to survive. This is all what I think about. There is nothing in my priority about my work, about my future, about my career, about nothing. I don't even think about them. My goal is to get something to eat, something to drink, to go to the hospital, try to help. That's it. This is how you live. I was so engaged in a situation that takes me out of my ordinary life. My style is totally changed. It's totally different. Now, this is your hope to get this. That shows you how much you need to be thankful lillah subhanahu azza wa jal for having this and taking it for granted. You have it, it's easily. Once Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala azza wa jal wants to take these basic needs from your hands out of your hands, you will realize how weak you are. How weak we are without His rahmah. This is His real blessing, a cup of water. If you don't have it, you will never think about your house and your future and your kids and your income, and this is what all you can think about, how to survive. And it was very tough to spend 3 hours behind a cup of water or a loaf of bread or a handful of rice. Not only you, like this is the entire city. Those people, they have hungry kids too, and they have the same concern. So this is the first one. The second duty is in the hospital. I went to Alshefa hospital to 2 departments. Now my specialty is in the intensive care unit of the newborns. Intensive care unit of the newborns. This is my specialty. I went there. I offered help, volunteering my time there. They don't have enough doctors. They are in shortage of all healthcare providers. And the other place is the emergency unit. In the emergency unit, because of the huge number of casualties, people who would come to the hospital because they are shuhada, we would receive them from areas of attack as casualties or as shuhada or as injured people. So we deal with them. Sometimes in the same shift, we would receive 500, 700 or 1,000 between shaheed and jarih, people who were killed or injured. So it was really busy being in the hospital that takes you from thinking only about just basic needs, water and electricity, and that was the situation in the hospital, running between the intensive care unit and between the emergency unit. And one of the most important and most dangerous missions there is to go with the ambulance as a doctor and nurse and bus and ambulance driver, because they will target most of these ambulances. It's really one of the most dangerous missions you could do in the hospital. And once we receive this huge number of people who are injured or killed, you need to deal with them. We saw حقيقة very, very, very difficult cases in the emergency unit, like those who were burned by the white phosphorus, phosphor al-abyad, the prohibited weapons, al-asliha al-muharrama. We could see the bone. We don't see the muscles anymore. Like we could see the bone immediately. You look at the hand or at the chest or at the leg,
You could spot the bone inside because most of the superficial tissues were burned. The muscles and the skin and nerves and veins, they were burned. They are not there. And you could spot the bone, and those patients, they come crying out loud out of pain. It's so painful. And the disaster is by week 2 and week 3, we run out of painkillers. The real painkillers that could help those people. By week 3, we run out of drugs for anesthesia to operate. We run out of simple materials. Sometimes we struggle to find syringes, gauze, antibiotics, basic medical stuff. We don't have them. And really, it is so tough to work in that environment while you have 60,000 refugees. They are inside the hospital. And you don't have medical supplies. You don't have really support. You are in shortage even in the manpower. Lots of those people and doctors and nurses and healthcare providers, they were there at the borders of Gaza, maybe at Jabalia or Beit Hanun, or even in the southern part of Gaza. They can't come to the hospital. And so people who live around the hospital, they could come and they could help. And that leaves you with a very significant shortage of manpower. And really, it is tough when you are a doctor and you are trained to help patients and you know how to help them, how to do this, but you stand in front of them. You could do nothing, either because of the cases that we received were severely burned or difficult, or so we can't do anything for them, or because you don't have the medical equipments. You don't have anesthesia to operate. You don't have painkillers. Don't do that, because they know once I leave him just for 1 minute, he would die. He is dependent on my manual oxygen supply. Once I leave him to check on the other 9 or 10 or 8 sick patients, he would die. And it's very tough. You are in a situation to decide this not only once, 10 times a day. Behind every one of those who are injured, those who would receive, wallahi, very long stories. How they got attacked, the entire family were killed, all of them except this kid, and lots of stories. And this is when you teach the father how to provide the manual oxygen supply. You leave him, you go, you check on the rest of the patients, you finish, you come back, you find the kid is dying. Because the father is not a healthcare provider. He doesn't know how to do it appropriately. And it's so tough when he experiences like his kids is dying between his hands. That's part of the situation that we receive there. Part of those who would receive, we receive them in pieces. Like it's not like the full body. You receive the same patient, the same shaheed as like hand and part of the leg and eye and part of the ear and the head. This is lots of patients we would receive them like this because they were sleeping in their houses when they got targeted and attacked and they were killed while they are asleep. So after like hours and hours in the hospital, you feel so tired, so exhausted, not only physically, but even mentally. And when I go back to my family, I just want to stand in front of the house for just a few minutes to disconnect. You don't want to bring all what you saw inside the house. Really, they are suffering enough. They need somebody to help them, not to make it even worse for them. So you disconnect, you try to focus, you need to bring some positivity and you go in there. Once we have something to eat, we eat, or otherwise we go and we wait, we try to listen to the news, or we go to sleep. Of course, go to sleep is something just intentional. We never, like I can't remember over 35 days that I was there in Gaza City before we moved to the south, I had 2 hours of continuous sleep. It's so tough. It's not easy because of the sounds of these explosions and the feeling that you are the target. You are the target, like you know that they are targeting civilians. Most of those who would receive in the hospital, women, seniors, kids, people who were in their houses, in their homes, and they were targeted and they were killed. I was there in the hospital. I know all these stories. We know for sure that we are the target. You are the target. It's totally different when you stay there in a city and the city got attacked, and you know for sure that they will attack the army and they will attack the governmental towers and buildings, and you might be killed by mistake. It's not intentional, but that's totally different when you know for sure, no, I am the target. And you know, if you sleep, most of those who were killed in Gaza as shuhada, they were targeted while they are on sleep. You know this for sure. So it's very tough to go and easily sleep. 2 hours together, wallahi, I didn't remember. 2 hours together. And once the night starts, like the amounts of explosions, they bombing everywhere. Everywhere. And I still remember the night of the 5th of November. The night of the 5th of November, in this night, after they started the ground battle, they wanted to go and invade the area in the northwest Gaza, Al-Karama and northern of Al-Shati refugee camp. So they bombed this area heavily this night. They started from Al-Maghrib time, and it was a continuous attacks, airstrikes from everywhere, from the sea, from the other area of the land, from the airstrikes, like everywhere. It was heavy enough. Those explosions were so far from our house, relatively, like around 4 to 5 kilometers. It's far, it's more in the north. And yet, we hear these explosions as if they are just in our neighbors, very loud ones. Wallahi, I still remember, like we went from the bed scared, and we gathered at the middle of the house, and with each one of those explosions, the light is everywhere in the sky of Gaza, as if it's daytime, it's not the night time. With each one of those very huge explosions, and with each one of them, the house shakes as if it's an earthquake, and you feel that the walls of the house will be collapsed over your head. We were gathered at the middle of the house. We were scared. and we were together, myself, my parents, my sister, my niece, and these explosions at the northwest of Gaza continued until midnight. After the midnight, as I remember, they threw a lot of the white phosphorus in the same area, like heavily, lots of it. And after midnight, these attacks moved to the neighborhood just beside our neighborhood, Tall al-Hawa. It's just beside our neighborhood with the same severity of attacks that we just experienced 5 kilometers away from our house. They continued the same attacks, bombing everywhere, airstrikes, huge explosions, until after Al-Fajr time, until the light time. It was really heavy. I still remember in this night, we opened the door of the house and we went outside. We run, wallahi, we don't know where to go. But the house will be collapsed over our heads, so we don't know where to go. We opened the door of the house and we started running. But once you reach to the external entrance and you want to leave the tower, you realize that the most dangerous area to be outside. Those drones, especially at night time, they detect any moving object as an enemy. And you will be targeted and you will be killed, specifically. So this is when you decide to go back. Wallahi, I remember ourselves, our neighbors, we don't know what to do. Go back? No, it doesn't seem safe at all. To go outside, it's even more dangerous. And we were standing exactly at the entrance. We are not out, we are not in. Until this night finished. I still remember the discussion between myself and my father after this night, talking afterwards in each night, oh, this night is the worst ever. It's even worse than the night before. We kept saying this until I left Gaza. This night is the worst. It's even worse than the previous one. This is how people live there, with those huge explosions. When they destroy neighborhood after neighborhood, area after area, they target block after block. Lots of people are killed from those who would know, our relatives, our neighbors. This is the situation. And I was there until day 35. Until day 35, because really we had limited access. طبعا by that time we didn't have electricity at all. And we used sometimes to go to the schools of the United Nations, the UNRWA, to charge our mobiles. We stand in long lines to charge your mobile 20% to 25% or so. We didn't have access to the internet. We didn't have news. Sometimes they just cut off all the cell phone coverage for 3 or 4 days. So you are totally disconnected from what's going on out there. All what we can know or experience, the sounds of these explosions, we don't know what's going on. What kind of towers were targeted? Those who were killed. When I go to the hospital, sometimes I get to know the news from the reporters of the media or people who I know. Sometimes we have some access to the news, like in very limited, really very limited. So in that day, really we didn't know that they already circled Alshefa hospital. And they are like their tanks, it was at Al-Hawa, the neighborhood just right beside us. And I went there in the morning, going to the hospital, maybe just to help, to relieve some of the doctors. I went there, and once I entered, or before I enter Alshefa street, which is the main street that takes you to Alshefa hospital, myself and those who were with me, we felt there is something really weird. We used to hear lots of noise in the street, like lots of people are there, whether those who are going out looking for something to eat from Alshefa. We have 60,000 refugees in Alshefa. Or those who will try to get some water to drink, like it's usually lots of people are there. This area, in spite of all the scary things, it's alive. It's around Alshefa. when I approached Alshefa Street, like it's completely silence. I hear nothing. Myself and my friends who were with me, like nothing. And once we entered Alshefa Street, so the quadcopters, this is kind of drones, they fly at a very low distance and they target every moving object automatically. And snipers, they were over all these high residential towers. They target every moving object. Once we enter Alshefa Street, they target and they shoot on us. So we couldn't go in there. I could spot in my eyes, wallahi, the blood of people who were killed just before we arrive. It's full there on the street, and we couldn't go. The street is totally empty, and this is when I think whoever was in Alshefa hospital is in Alshefa hospital, whoever is outside. We tried to go through Astory refugee camp to the northern entrance of Alshefa hospital. It's the same situation. It's circled from all sides. Nobody is allowed to leave Alshefa or to go in Alshefa. And that was my last time to see Alshefa. I went back, I sit home with my parents and my niece, and by the Asr time, the confrontations between the resistance and the occupation force was just at the corner of the street. And it was so risky and so dangerous to stay in there. Our tower is high, so they are most likely going to have their snipers to be up there. And if they want to put their snipers to be up on one of those towers, they don't go there while you have like residents in that tower. They kill them and then they go upstairs. So we decided to leave. And we left with our neighbors in a street called Palestine, which is in Al-Rimal, but far a little bit from Alshefa. So we went there to the relatives of our neighbors. We don't really know them. They hosted us, and this is the situation in most Gaza. Like most people in Gaza, they get together, they help each other, they support each other. And this sense of takaful and supporting each other is part of what made them like keep going to survive the challenge, the tough life that they live there. So we were there for the entire night. It was really very tough. I don't have to explain further more than what I just mentioned for the 9 of 20 of the 5th of November. It was even worse. And on the early morning of that day, I started to get the news that they stormed Alshefa hospital from all directions, and they prevented people to move. They gave them, before storming Alshefa hospital, just 1 hour to evacuate Alshefa. And it was full of 60 people who came, refugees from every single corner of Gaza, because they felt Alshefa is safe. And they were there because it's safe, it's a hospital. They will never attack a hospital. And they were there with 2,000 of patients. Most of them are injured, jarha, in this battle. And also the staff, the medical staff, doctors, nurses, admin. 1 hour to evacuate. When people refuse to evacuate, or most of them, they have nowhere to go to. So they wanted to stay. They attacked them inside Alshefa hospital with one of the airstrikes. They killed some of them. People started to feel scared, and they started to go from all the entrances of Alshefa hospital to all directions. And while they are leaving, they targeted them too. When they stormed Alshefa hospital, the situation was already tough. Like 4 or 5 days before, we didn't have enough electricity. Most of our generators inside the hospital ran out of gas. So we don't have enough to supply and to generate electricity. So we cut off electricity from all departments except the vital ones. The vital ones, the intensive care unit for adults, the intensive care unit for the newborns, and the emergency unit, the operation unit, and the radiology department. and everywhere else with no electricity. So the day before they stormed Alshefa hospital, we had zero electricity. And this is when we don't have electricity even in those vital, important departments. So most of those patients who are in the intensive care unit, for adults or for the newborns and the premature babies, they are dependent on electricity, dependent on mechanical ventilators. They get their oxygen by these mechanical machines. They work on electricity. And for the premature kids and the newborns, we put them inside incubators. So inside incubators to keep their temperature, their humidity, they are just newborn and immature babies, very small, tiny kids. They are dependent on the incubators, dependent on mechanical ventilators. And once we don't have electricity, we cover them with lots of towels to keep their temperature, and we provided them with manual oxygen. Once they stormed Alshefa hospital, they entered every single corner in the hospital. And we got to know that they entered even the wards for patients. And they were looking for someone that they expect he might be injured in the confrontations because of the nature of his injury, so they kill him, execution. If you are just fit and you have a strong body building and fitness, you will be killed because you might be part of the resistance without any evidence. They kill patients inside the hospital. And once they stormed the intensive care unit of adults, they ordered all the doctors to evacuate, and if you refuse, you will be killed. And once they evacuated, they forced all the patients to leave, and all of them died. The 20 patients in the intensive care unit of adults. For the intensive care unit of the newborn, they are just newborns, immature babies, inside their incubators, and yet they forced all the healthcare providers to leave, and if you refuse, you mostly will be killed. And then those people or those patients, those kids, those immature kids, they were left alone, without oxygen, without taking care of their temperature. And we started to hear the news that the first one died, the second one. We have 32 patients inside the intensive care unit of the newborns. Those are our patients. We know them. And they started to die one by one. Like you leave them just for a few seconds sometimes or a few minutes without oxygen, they die. Without oxygen. Some of them survived, and some of them, 8 of them, died on the spot. And some of them survived. They moved them, as I got to hear in the news later on, through the Red Crescent to Egypt. But even those who were moved, really, I am not sure about their outcome, because once you have lack of oxygen for a few minutes and hypothermia, low body temperature for a few minutes for those immature kids, the outcome mostly will be disaster. Anyways, that was the situation there. In that day, they killed 200. 200 of those who either be healthcare providers or patients. And they prevented any one of them to bury them. They were there for 3 days. And after 3 days, they decided to bury them inside Alshefa hospital. So on that day, the second day, on the day of the relatives of our neighbors in Palestine street, the confrontations was there, like down the street. Again, we decided to leave. I know when you hear we decided to leave, you could feel like this is maybe leave. No, it's not. It's something really tough. Like you leave and you try to get with you the maximum amount possible of food, if you have any, of water, if you have any, something you could wear. And you move from one house to another with your parents. They are really old. They are sick. With my sister and my niece, my father is almost 80. And my mother is 76. And they are sick with chronic illnesses. My father has renal injury. and he is diabetic, and he ran out of medications at the middle of the war, and we have to change it without checking his blood sugar. And he has heart problems, and he didn't have full medication to just that he used to get. And while he has kidney injury and renal injury, he used to drink dirty water. It's dhulm, it's oppression. And yet you push them to move from one house to another. We decided to move again. And we thought that we might go to our house, the house of my parents. We went there, it's destroyed. You can't live in there. And this is when we feel like stuck. You can't go to the house of my sister beside Alshefa, and this house is destroyed, and the other house, the confrontations are there. We went there again, we felt really unsafe, and this is when we decided really to go south. Now, going south in Gaza Strip, that was the order that we received from the occupation force on October 8th, the second day of the war, that they need all people in Gaza city to leave the city to the south through the valley of Gaza, and they called the southern part of Gaza the safe area, while most people who get murdered was tashhadu, from those who I know, they were there in the south part of Gaza. This safe area, according to their description, you could go in there through the safe way to the safe area. What is the safe way? The safe way is to take the street of Salah ad-Din from the eastern part of Gaza, and Salah ad-Din street is the only, like you could say, the highway that connects Gaza city with Khan Yunis, with Deir al-Balah, with Rafah. All those cities in Gaza Strip are connected with this street. So they want us to move from Gaza to the eastern part, take the highway down to southern part or middle part of Gaza Strip. So in that day, I still remember we walked for at least 10 kilometers. Really, it was so tiring. Like somebody like me would take it, would walk the 10 kilometers with parents and with sister and my niece, and with targeting us from these drones and tanks, and you are walking out there. Really, it is not safe. Nothing is safe. And there is no promises. Even if you go through the evacuation safe way, you might be killed and targeted. You are so stressed and pressure. And before going there, it was very clear for us, the instructions and the guidance when you go there. You go with nothing with you, only what you wear. You might get a small bag, and if the soldier ordered you to throw it, you throw it, you leave it. This is all what you can get. Once you arrive, you go walking. There is nothing like you ride anything, neither a car nor a donkey, nothing. You go walking, and we were like hundreds, we walk together. And the orders is to look forward. You don't turn right, you don't turn left, nothing. Once you arrive the safe way, you could notice people who were killed before you arrive. On both sides, some of them, they just were killed with the red blood is coming out of their bodies. And some of them were killed 2, 3, or 5 days ago. That's clear. You could spot this, and the bad smell is everywhere, and attacks over your head, and those drones really over your head, and they are watching you. We were hundreds, and we were moved, and part of the instructions that if somebody beside you is killed, don't go down to help him or her. If you do, you will be killed with him or with her. You continue forward. You don't even look at them. This is the safe way. We went when we were hundreds, moving step by step, very slow, until we arrived exactly in front of the tank. So Salah ad-Din is running that way. There is a hill, and over this hill there is a tank, and there is a soldier beside it with a mic talking to us, and a few soldiers are there down too. So once you arrive, you get the instructions. Go, don't turn right, don't turn left. And we keep going until we arrived in front of the soldier exactly, and this is when he shouted at us, stop. and he speaks in Arabic. And we stopped moving, all of us. And I was wearing my blue jacket. So my blue jacket is the only jacket I have. And I don't want to leave it. It was really hot, but I want to wear it because it might be cold when I arrive there, and I'm not allowed to bring anything with me. So I just wear it. I went with the parents, holding their hands step by step, my sister, my niece beside us. And once we arrived, he shouted us to stop. And we all stopped, and it's silence. And then he said, "You with the blue jacket, come forward." And this come forward is something they all know. Those people were killed in both sides of the streets because they were called to come forward or to go backwards, and then they kill them. And then the rest moves. So you with the blue jacket, come forward. Really, up on this moment, Anna, I have no emotions. Like, I can't remember my feelings, my emotions. I can't remember. All what I can remember, that I was holding the hand of my parents from the right and left, both hands, and I looked at their faces, and wallahi, I felt I would love, like I have never seen their faces in that situation, wallahi, ever. As if they experienced death maybe 10 times in these moments. Like they finally felt that their kid will be killed in front of their eyes without even helping him. And wallahi, looking at their faces, it was really killing me. And I can't remember still my feelings, what I'm going to do. It's a very tough moment. And then he called again, "You with the blue jacket, come forward." And everyone started to look at me from those people around me. And you don't know, really, you don't know in their faces what they want to tell you. Because they know for sure if you move, you will be killed. So it is really tough for them to ask me to move. At the same time, if I don't move, a bunch of people might be killed while I'm standing among them. It's really a very tough call, and I wanted to move someone else with a blue jacket just behind me. He shouted, he said, "I am pushing her. She can't walk." So he is with a blue jacket, and he was pushing his mother because she can't walk on the chair. And that soldier, he felt like he is doing something weird, and that's why he shouted at him. And this is when he asked us to move. We moved in both sides, and he had it now in a spot. He could kill him and his mother. Then he said, "Okay, move." So we all moved. It was a very horrible trip, very horrible journey. It was so tough with lots of pressure and stress. And by the end of the journey, before we arrived, my mother lost her consciousness. And we start just helping her and moving her because you are not allowed to stop in the street. And we found someone with a cart and a donkey, and we begged him to take her and my father, and he agreed. And they were there over this cart until we arrived at Nusayrat refugee camp. So Nusayrat refugee camp is another refugee camp at the middle area of Gaza. And once we arrived there, it's again the same story, looking for water, looking for food, looking for something. It's really even more difficult because now this area is so crowded. Lots of people left Gaza and they are in the same area, and they are there after now 36 days. Every day passes is more difficult than the day before. When you don't find water or food, when you go to sleep, really you think, if I don't find something for today, how I could find something for tomorrow? Most of these items, rice, flour, lentil, water, like they were consumed over time. Nothing gets in Gaza. Nothing new is coming from outside. So it really was tough. Until day 7, And this is when they listed my name at borders of Rafah to leave as a Canadian with the Canadian mission. So there are rumors there that if you go and you take your family with you and you fight for them at the borders, they allow them to go with you. They called me the Canadian mission on the week 2 or 3 in the war, and I talked to them, and my wife talked to them from Canada, just to list my parents, my sister, my niece with the same list. So to make enough pressure for them, so on the other side maybe, or on Egyptians, to allow them to live with me. And they agreed to make that pressure. They tried, seems they tried, and on day 30 or 32, they called me again and they told me, no, we can't. Maybe they are not eligible. They are not your kids or your spouses. If they are your parents or sister, this is not allowed. We tried. Then I told them I can't leave behind my father, my mother, my sister, my niece. And please, could you make pressure? He told me, yes, I will, but most likely that's not going to happen, but I will do my best. And on day 43, my name was listed at the borders. So based on the rumors that we hear, that if you fight on the borders for them, they allow them to go with you. They are your family at the end of the day. So I talked to my parents, I talked to my father, I told him, let's go. So we go together. So he had the feeling that I might stay in Gaza if they don't leave, my father. And his concern was from day 1 of the war. To be honest, I didn't go to Gaza for these long years, and I had barriers that prevented me to go back to Gaza. And really, he killed himself to bring me back to Gaza. He did all what he can. And once the war started, really, he killed himself to get me outside Gaza. He was so worried that I will be killed, either in the hospital, or in one of those ambulances, or when I go to bring some water or food or something, or he was so scared. He wanted me to go outside. Even he texted the Canadian mission at the beginning on my behalf, that I'm a Canadian, I'm stuck in Gaza, please let me know how to leave. Until they called me. So once we went there, he was with me, with my mother, my sister, my niece. We went to the borders and arrived there, and in the Palestinian side, the officer was overwhelmed with hundreds of people over his head. Everyone wants to leave quickly because those airstrikes and drones are attacking even the borders. So they wanted just to leave quickly. So he was overwhelmed. He shouted at us, everyone, please go back. I will call you by name. So we all went back except my father. He is old and he looks really tired. He lost 20 kilos from his weight from the beginning of the war. And he told him, really, I am sick. I'm tired. Do you want me to go back? And then you call me and then I come to you. Really, I can't even walk. Could you please help me and process my passports quickly? He told him. And they went there to the office. I am looking at them through the glass of the office. They were talking and they made some calls. I thought based on the rumors, they called the Egyptian side. And they were smiling. Nobody smiles in that situation. It's tough enough. So when they smiled, I thought it's fine, it's working. And they have a piece of paper. They listed all the names on the piece of paper. I'm looking from far through the glass of the room. And then my father left the room and he was so happy and smiling. And he called me, Ehab, go with the officer. He has your passport. I thought this is working. I have to process to go with him because they are going with me. So I have to go with him first. I went with the officer and he took me out of the hall through a door that opens from one side without going back to the other side, just one way. And I went there, he went behind the desk, he stamped my passport, he gave it to me, and he called me, okay, go to the bus. And he was overwhelmed with hundreds of people, even in this hall over his head. So I told him, where? He told me to Egypt. I told him, yeah, I have my parents, my sister, my niece, they are coming with me. And he didn't answer me. People are asking him. I stayed there. He told me, really, you need to go to the bus because your name is there in that bus. I told him, no, I have my parents, they will come. He told me, I talked to your father. And he told me to process your passport because he knows that he and your family got rejected. They can't pass the borders. And he asked me to process your passport, and I did. Please go to the bus. So my father, he didn't want me to feel that they were rejected. Then I decided to go. Even this possibility, he doesn't want to see it. So he didn't even said goodbye to me, while he knows that this might be the last time I see him. He didn't even tell me to say goodbye to my mother. Just he didn't want me to feel it. So when I sat in the bus, I called him. I told him, what did you do that? Why? Why did you do that? He told me in Arabic, يا بروح شوف مرتك وبناتك إحنا كبار إلنا الله. Go see your wife and your kids. We are old. Allah will protect us. And once I arrived Egypt on the second day, I received a call from the hospital in Al-Nusayrat refugee camp, the hospital of Al-Awda, and they told me your father is a shaheed, rahmatullahi alayhi. While in his way going back from Rafah to Gaza, he told my sister, I am now satisfied. أنا مرتاح. Ehab is outside Gaza. Finally, he is outside the borders. As if he has a mission, his final mission in his life. He wanted this mission to be completed, to be done. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, may Allah accept him among the shuhada. So this is what I saw there. This is the situation from inside Gaza. My story is much easier than hundreds of stories of those who lived inside schools, those who were killed really with their entire families, and kids who were left without anyone of their families, neither parents, neither sisters, and they are the only survival kids. And really there is no government there to take care of them. There is no orphan houses, there is no schools, there is nothing. Lots of stories, story after story, lots of them more difficult than the story that you just heard. Still, my story is, I consider it as one of the mild stories of people who experienced what's going there in Gaza. I left on the day 43, brothers and sisters. Today we are on day 90. 90. More double the time that what I spent in Gaza. The situation there is horrible enough for us really to do something, to change ourselves. When I was there, I got to learn from most people around me, most of them. You know, once we were there in the hospital, one of the most risky missions is to go in the ambulance. We have a list of those doctors, nurses, and drivers who will go in the ambulance. You would think that this list were put by the head of the department. It's not. It's volunteering base. You go and you put your name. And people really, they fight to go. They race to go. They want to go. One of them, they wanted to go, and the other one tells him, no, it's my turn. You went yesterday. No, it is my turn. It's risky. Those people, they have families. They have houses. They have kids. And when you ask them, why you do this, their answer is, this is my participation in this battle. I don't know how to be on the front line. I don't have skills to be there, but what I know to do is how to drive the ambulance. And this is my participation. This is what I'm good at. The owner of the bakery in our neighborhood, he would open his bakery while all of those bakeries were targeted. And it is a so risky mission. And when they asked him, why do you do that? He is not just sacrificing his business. He is sacrificing himself because he would open and stay in there. And when you ask him, why do you do that? He would say, this is my participation. Those people to stay in their houses, in their land, they need somebody to feed them. And I can do this. I can't be on the front line, but I can support people to stand up for al-haq, to stand up in their houses. This is what I'm good at. Until they targeted him, they killed him, and he will be a shaheed and happy with his participation in this battle between al-haq and al-batil. This is what I'm good at. Can all of us do this? Could you ask yourself what I'm good at? And just go ahead and don't underestimate. It's just a loaf of bread. Or driving an ambulance. It's in your eyes, it might be not a big participation. But it is. You never know. Those shuhada might be in the highest level of al-Jannah. You never know. This is what I'm good at. Could you ask yourself a question? Don't convince me that people in this hall, all what they know or what they can do, just emotions and tears and dua. No. This is good, but not good enough. We all can do something in media, social media, protesting, signing petitions, creating small videos, giving talks, spreading awareness. You name it. You are good at something. Please do it. And don't tell yourself or say, no, that won't help. No, it will help. The bread will help. The ambulance driver helped a lot. You could do something from where you are. Nobody in Gaza accepts you to go there. They don't want you to go even, wallahi. But they want you to be strong in this country. They want you to be well established and strong enough to influence people around you. This is the expectations. The expectations is to do that. So ask yourself what I'm good at. I'm sure you will find something. And once you find it, please do it. Please do it. Because this is your participation. The second lesson that I learned is this battle is the battle between al-haq wal-batil. It is. It is one of the battles between al-haq wal-batil. The conflict between al-haq wal-batil started from Adam until the day of judgment. And this is one of them. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala promised us that it will stay clear as haq wa batil. If you decide to be on the gray area at the middle, you won't be successful. He promised us عز وجل ما كان الله ليذر المؤمنين على ما أنتم عليه حتى يميز الخبيث من الطيب. You know ما كان in Arabic? It will never happen. It will be always حق وباطل. You decide to have a third zone of gray area, it's up to you. But there is no such a thing. ما كان الله ليذر المؤمنين على ما أنتم عليه in the gray area. So I pray, I fast, praying and fasting as are fara'id, and we need to do them. But you need to follow the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام, standing up for the truth, for al-haq. He didn't just عليه الصلاة والسلام dedicated his life to stand at the corner of the masjid to pray and fast and give dhikr and sadaqah. No. This is important part of our deen, but the full picture of our deen tells us that you need to stand up for al-haq. You need to sacrifice. You need to be part of the fight between al-haq wal-batil. This is his life, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And now you should participate. It's a fight between al-haq wal-batil. You decide to stay at the gray area. I can't tell you are with al-haq or with al-batil. You pray, you fast, you have dhikr. At the same time, really, you are not fighting against al-batil and you don't stand up for the truth where you are on the gray area. Allah will never leave you to stay in the gray area. ما كان الله ليذر المؤمنين على ما أنتم عليه حتى يميز الخبيث من الطيب. You will be differentiated between white and black, good and bad, al-khabith wal-tayyib, and it's a fight. And you decide to stand beside each. Which side? If you decide to stay in the gray area, you are in a very high risk to be moved to the black one. take care of this. Again, how to stand with the white area? What I'm good at. A loaf of bread, driving an ambulance, doing anything, please go ahead and do it. This is your participation. This is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants you to do, to participate with al-haq against al-batil. The third lesson, the relationship with the Quran. The relationship with the Quran is really unique. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala akramni and blessed me to memorize the Quran when I was 19 years old. And then, since then, I kept reviewing the Quran every month a few times. Over these 43 years, not days, when I started to read and review the Quran again, Allah knows as if I am reading it for the first time. And really, I felt sorry about my life, like 47 years reading the Quran. This is how you should read it correctly. Finally, you are so engaged in some of those ayat, very beautiful, wallahi. Maybe when you are under pressure, you participate in the da'wah, you stand up for al-haq, you are within this environment, you feel the Quran. And if your life is only evolved around your life, your future, your house, your business, your taxes, your retirement account, and also you pray and you fast and you do few of these ibadat, when you read the Quran for you is just a text. It's irrelevant. The Quran never talks about your future, about your house, about your kids, no. So when you read it, it is just a text. If you stand up for al-haq, if you are part of da'wah, if you call people for the truth, when you stand up for al-haq, you will be faced by al-batil. And once you go through this struggle and this trial, you find the Quran is so relevant because it was revealed on the Prophet in that situation while he is in the fight against al-batil, himself and the Sahaba, while he is standing up for the truth. That was the time when the Quran was revealed to guide you, to tell you what to do and what not to do, how to react, how to be a smart da'iyah, how to call people lillah subhanahu azza wa jal, how to approach those who will reject your da'wah. And when you are rejected, how to stand up for al-haq, how to resist, how to have resilience, how to have patience, how to be strong, how to have courage. Al-Quran tells you all of that while you are in this mood. But if you are not in this mood, when you read the Quran is just a text. It is just a text. When you read the story of Musa alayhi salam, it's just a story of one of the prophets, the previous ones. You don't feel it's relevant. You don't feel that I need to learn from this story because this is the answer that I'm looking for in my situation today. So one of the tips for us to understand the Quran differently, two things. The first one, you need to be involved in standing up for al-haq. You need to understand the Quran correctly. It's not enough to open the book and you try to think and reflect without living the Quran in your real life. You live the Quran, then you are there. This is extremely important because once you read the story of Yusuf, oh, that tells me something. This is how I should do it. And the Quran is relevant and is for you. The second tip is you read the Quran as if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking to you. It's not, don't get the idea that he was revealed to the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam and I'm reading it. No, it was revealed on the Prophet and for the Prophet alayhi salatu and for you. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks to you directly. So you will be held between his hands azza wa jal to be asked about every single ayah. Reading, understanding, and implementation. We have kalimatullah in our hands, ya jama'ah. It's an amana. No other ummah has kalimatullah except you. Kalimatullah, the final message. We are the final ummah, the followers of the final prophet. It's a big amana in our hands. So you read the Quran and you know Allah talks to you directly. He is not talking to him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and you are reading it. No, he is talking to him and he is talking to you, azza wa jal. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Alif Lam Ra, Kitabun anzalnahu ilayk. مش إليه. كتاب أنزلناه إليك لتخرج الناس من الظلمات إلى النور. We've revealed the book for you to guide people from the darkness of this dunya to the light of Allah. Me? Yes, you. This is your mission. كتاب أنزلناه إليك. We've revealed the book for you to guide people. I am a simple man. Yeah, all of us are simple people. We are ibadullah. We are servants lillah Azza wa Jal. But He talks to you Azza wa Jal. And every single ayah in the Quran like this. When you read the Quran while you are in the mood of standing up for al-haq and be da'iya lillah Azza wa Jal, at the same time you reflect and you know Allah is talking to you, believe me, your relationship with Al-Quran and for that order with Allah Azza wa Jal will be totally different. And this is the secret of success. As-Sahaba were changed from illiterates, from abid in al-Jahiliyyah. They were servants in al-Jahiliyyah to others. And they became the leaders of the humanity. Why? The impact of the Quran. And this is really what we miss. I have experienced this in so many occasions. One of those occasions when you receive someone with 4 of his kids are shuhada at the hospital. 4 of them are shuhada at the hospital. And you wanted just to make aza for him. And he tells you, I am totally fine. Internally, I am happy and satisfied. Didn't you hear قول الله عز وجل in Surah Ali Imran, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, فالذين هاجروا وأخرجوا من ديارهم وأوذوا في سبيلي وقاتلوا وقتلوا لأكفرن عنهم سيئاتهم ولأدخلنهم جنات تجري من تحتها الأنهار. Those who immigrated and they were forced to leave their houses and they struggled in my sake and they are part of the fight and they were killed, I will certainly wipe out their ma'asi and dhunub, and I will certainly admit them al-Jannah. He told me this ayah talks about 2 phases. The first one is the hardship, the struggle, and the second one is the blessings and the reward. And I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that I went through the first one and now I'm facing the second one, the second phase. I finished with the immigration, pushed out of my house, my kids were killed. And I hope that now I'm facing the second one, which is wiping out all my ma'asi and admitting me al-Jannah. If that's the cost, I'm happy. So that's why I'm eternally satisfied. I kept repeating this ayah in my life. I have never understood this ayah as this time when I saw it on my eyes, practice on the ground. During this time, I have experienced maybe to be killed, experienced death a few times in situations that I have never think I will escape. And some of those moments like this, and some of those moments, no, that's just for a few minutes, when the attacks are everywhere and lots of people around you were killed and you might be killed. And the most important ayah that strikes my mind, قول الله عز وجل وَلَقَدْ كُنْتُمْ تَمَنَّوْنَ الْمَوْتَ مِنْ قَبْلِ أَنْ تَلْقَوْهُ فَقَدْ رَأَيْتُمُوهُ وَأَنْتُمْ تَنْظُرُونَ. You wish to be shaheed in the sake of Allah, right? Here you go. Show me your truthfulness. If you are sincere, you will show me your sincerity now. You could say it as long as you want. You could spend, wallahi, 30 years of your life. I want to be a shaheed. Allahumma arzuqni shahada. If you are truthful, in this moment it will be very clear. وَلَقَدْ كُنْتُمْ تَمَنَّوْنَ الْمَوْتَ مِنْ قَبْلِ أَنْ تَلْقَوْهُ. You love to be a shaheed in the sake of Allah? Here you go. This is al-maut. Now you are there truly. It's not a joke. Mostly you will be killed. Show me your truthfulness. And at these moments, of course, you will think about your past and people who you love and ma'asi, and you repent lillah azza wa jal. But the most difficult question to answer, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created me for a reason. He wanted me to be a khalifa lillah subhanahu wa ta'ala on earth. He wanted me to guide myself, to guide my close circle, and to work very hard to establish His sharia and His way on earth. This is my responsibility. كتاب أنزلناه إليك لتخرج الناس من الظلمات إلى النور. He created me for this reason. Did I do that? And that kept coming to my mind in these difficult situations. Did I do that? And I wish, wallahi, I have the easy yes. You know the easy yes? You say yes easily because you are so confident. When you don't have the easy yes, you ask yourself, if I can't have it right now, what is the promise that I will have it on the day of judgment between His hands, Azza wa Jal? There is no promise. Your major responsibility, it comes to ask you while you are dying. Because when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَكَدْ كُنْتُمْ تَمَنَّوْنَ الْمَوْتِ, it's an experience, it's not just a moment. Death is an experience. You need to be ready for this experience. You need to prepare yourself. One of the most beautiful ayat too. قول الله عز وجل in سورة التوبة فالذين ذلك بأنهم لا يصيبهم ظمأ ولا نصب ولا مخمصة في سبيل الله ولا يطؤون موطئا يغيظ الكفار ولا ينالون من عدو نيلا إلا كتب لهم به عمل صالح. Very beautiful. ذلك بأنهم لا يصيبهم ظمأ. They will never get thirsty, struggles, hungry, or having a step over their enemies, or again that angers their enemy, except that Allah will reward them. Wallahi, this ayah as if tells us, you are thirsty, you are hungry, you are scared, you struggle, you will be rewarded. Don't worry. Just be patient. Just be patient. And I know I am late. I will finish in 5 minutes. Don't worry. So the lesson after that, and this is the last lesson. The last lesson is, please, 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 don't be the weak point that this ummah might experience defeat because of you. كلكم على ثغرة من ثغر الإسلام فلا نؤتين من قبلك. Don't be the weak point that the entire ummah will experience defeat because of you, because of your shortcoming, or being unmindful of Allah. I'm talking this to myself first, before saying this to anyone. كلكم على ثغرة من ثغر الإسلام فلا نؤتين من قبلك. You may ask, if I do something wrong or shortcoming, somebody else will pay the price? Yeah. Have you read what happened in غزوة أحد? When he appointed sallallahu alayhi wa sallam a group of Sahaba over the hill, and he instructed them directly, never leave. If we win, never leave. If we got defeated, never leave. And they have no intention to disobey the Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam because they are Sahaba. But they decided to change his order when they felt that the battle is done, and they told themselves these orders were valid as long as the battle is there, and now the battle is done. So that change, who paid the price? Only them? No. The Prophet was about to be killed, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Hamza ibn Abd al-Muttalib, Mus'ab ibn Umayr, Anas ibn al-Nadr, 70 shuhada. 70 back then, from 7,000, from 700s, the number of the soldiers with the Prophet ﷺ, this is 10% of the ummah. 10% of the ummah, and the best 10%, like 70 from the best of Sahaba. And if you read the history of Sirah, for 1 year after that, we paid the price. Lots of the tribes, they started and they decided to attack Medina because they felt the Muslims are weak. For 1 year, we paid the price. of this wrong decision. Please, كلكم على ثغرة من ثغر الإسلام، فلا نؤتين من قبلك, whether in the form of shortcome or معاصي or غيبة or نميمة or being unmindful of Allah, or really you see what's wrong and you leave it. You don't stand up for the truth. It's your spot. Please guard your spot. Guard your spot. من هنا تأتي الهزيمة. Don't be the weak point that we could experience defeat after all these sacrifices. No. Your brothers and sisters in Gaza, they really sacrificed a lot. Their anfus, their houses, their kids, their spouses, their brothers, their sisters. They don't know what to eat, what to drink tomorrow, where to sleep, to go, what to expect for tomorrow. Nothing. It's a big sacrifice. Now it's our turn. Let's guard our spots. Each one of us, guard your spot. Steer away من المعاصي, and if you have a معصية, please just repent لله عز وجل as soon as possible. Repent لله عز وجل. Go back. توبة لله عز وجل. This ummah might be defeated because of me, because of you, because if you imagine the situation, really, it's really scary. Don't be the weak point. Be the positive point. Be the adding point to al-haqq by standing up for the truth. اللهم إني داع فأمنوا. اللهم لك الحمد ولك الشكر أنت قيوم السماوات والأرض ومن فيهن. اللهم لك الحمد ولك الشكر أنت قيوم السماوات والأرض ومن فيهن. صل اللهم وسلم وبارك على عبدك ونبيك سيدنا محمد في الأولين والآخرين وفي الملأ الأعلى إلى يوم الدين. اللهم انصر غزة وأهلها. اللهم انصر غزة وأهلها. اللهم انصر غزة وأهلها. اللهم ثبت أقدامهم وارفع رايتهم ووحد كلمتهم وانصرهم على من عاداهم. اللهم سدد رميهم ورأيهم. اللهم سدد رميهم ورأيهم. اللهم زلزل الأرض من تحت أقدام عدوهم ونكس أعلامهم وفرق شملهم واقذف في قلوبهم الرعب وأتهم من حيث لم يحتسبوا واجعل بأسهم بينهم شديد. اللهم ربنا وأنزل الصبر والثبات على قلوب أمهات الشهداء. اللهم أنزل الصبر والثبات على قلوب أمهات الشهداء وآباء الشهداء وأزواج الشهداء وأبناء الشهداء وإخوان وأخوات الشهداء. اللهم ثبتهم وامسح على جروحهم وقروحهم. اللهم عافهم يا رب واقبل شهداءهم وفك أسراهم وداوي جرحاهم وعاف مبتلاهم واسق عطشانهم وأطعم جائعهم وأمن خائفهم. اللهم يا رب كن معهم ولا تكن عليهم. كن معهم ولا تكن عليهم. اللهم ربنا ورد المسجد الأقصى إلى ديار المسلمين. رد المسجد الأقصى بأيدينا إلى ديار المسلمين. رد المسجد الأقصى بأيدينا إلى ديار المسلمين وارزقنا فيه ركعتين آمنين مطمئنين. اللهم استخدمنا لدينك حتى ترضى. اللهم استخدمنا لرفعة دينك حتى ترضى. اللهم استخدمنا لرفعة دينك حتى ترضى. فإذا رضيت وحان الأجل فخذنا إليك شهداء. اختم لنا بالشهادة في سبيلك وحفظ القرآن. اللهم خذ من أوقاتنا حتى ترضى، وخذ من عرقنا حتى ترضى، وخذ من جهدنا حتى ترضى، وخذ من دمائنا حتى ترضى، وارض عنا يا كريم برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. لا تدع لنا في مقامنا هذا ذنبا إلا غفرته، ولا هما إلا فرجته، ولا شهيدا إلا قبلته، ولا شهيدا إلا قبلته، ولا شهيدا إلا قبلته، ولا جريحا إلا شافيته وعافيته، ولا أسيرا إلا فككت أسره، ولا ظالما إلا قصمته، ولا ظالما إلا قصمته، ولا مظلوما إلا أنصفته، ولا منافقا إلا فضحته وخذلته، ولا منافقا إلا فضحته وخذلته. بقوتك يا قوي يا عزيز اجعل يا رب جمعنا هذا جمعا مرحوما، وتفرقنا من بعده تفرقا معصوما، ولا تجعل فينا ولا منا ولا معنا شقيا ولا محروما. صل اللهم على سيدنا محمد في الأولين والآخرين وفي الملأ الأعلى إلى يوم الدين. وجزاكم الله خيرا.
Jazakumullah khair, Dr. Ehab. On behalf of OMA and MAC, I'd like to thank him abundantly for what we just heard. I guess it's time for Isha, inshallah. A couple of housekeeping notes. So we kindly ask the sisters who would like to pray to go upstairs, inshallah. We will take care of the chairs. You don't have to worry about the chairs. We can collect, the kids could be collected